Most places that are off limits are restricted for ordinary reasons: military installations, private property, construction zones. But there is another category of restricted area: places where the land is broken. Authorities lock these gates because what happened behind the fences was catastrophic. The restrictions quarantine permanent human mistakes, places where what happened was so catastrophic, so contaminating, or so genuinely unresolved that the decision was made by governments, by institutions, by the weight of what occurred there, that ordinary people should not be allowed in because what it holds, radiation, disease, the residue of violence on an extraordinary scale, makes access genuinely inadvisable. These are physical scars left behind by massive human errors, scars that we still haven't figured out how to scrub clean. In 1960, Centralia, Pennsylvania was a functioning coal mining town with over 1,000 residents. Today, it barely exists. The buildings are gone, the postal code is revoked, and few residents remain. In 1962, a municipal landfill on the edge of town was set on fire to burn off rubbish. That landfill sat directly above an exposed vein of anthracite coal. The flames moved from the trash into the coal seam, spreading through the network of abandoned mine tunnels beneath the town. That fire has been burning for over 60 years. It hollowed out the earth beneath Centralia, causing the main highway to buckle and collapse, venting superheated steam and lethal carbon monoxide directly through the cracked asphalt. While Centralia was an accident, other soil is poisoned deliberately. In the early 1940s, the British government took over Gruinard Island, a small patch of land off the coast of Scotland, to test anthrax bombs for a biological weapons program. They detonated the weapons over a flock of sheep. The sheep died, but the anthrax survived. Anthrax fords are durable. They can lie dormant in the topsoil and remain lethal for over a century. At this primary layer of contamination, humanity breaks the physical environment so completely that remediation is nearly impossible. The only viable option left is to draw a perimeter and walk away. 9 kilometers off the coast of Japan sits Hashima Island. It is a fortified concrete city built by the Mitsubishi Corporation for one purpose: extracting coal from an undersea mine. This chart illustrates Hashima's population density in the early 1960s. With over 5,000 people packed onto an island just 360 meters long, the density was more than 800 people per hectare, roughly 9 times higher than modern-day Tokyo. When the coal ran out in 1974, the mine closed and the island was instantly abandoned. Today, it is a collapsing labyrinth of concrete that masks a darker history. During the Second World War, Korean and Chinese forced laborers were brought here to work the mines under brutal, often fatal conditions. A similar pattern of institutional abandonment happened in Italy. Poveglia Island sits in the Venice Lagoon. For centuries, it served as a destination for the sick. It operated as a strict quarantine station during the Black Death outbreaks, where tens of thousands of plague victims died and were burned in mass fires. In 1922, the island was repurposed into a psychiatric hospital. Patients were housed in the old quarantine buildings and subjected to conditions that would now be considered deeply inadequate and neglectful. When the asylum closed in 1968, the island was left to overgrow. These ruins serve as monuments to a disposable view of humanity, places where institutions extracted labor or hid social problems, then left the structures to rot. The final level of contamination occurs when the history itself is toxic. Between 1937 and 1945, the Imperial Japanese Army operated Unit 731 in Pingfang, China. It was a site of systematic human experimentation on prisoners of war and civilians. When Soviet forces advanced in 1945, the commanding officers ordered the facility demolished. They executed prisoners and burned documentation to cover up the atrocities. But the leadership of Unit 731 did not evade justice simply by destroying buildings. They traded their biological weapons data to the United States government in exchange for absolute immunity from war crimes prosecution. Today, the full original complex and its network of underground tunnels remain strictly restricted. To excavate the site is to navigate a diplomatic dispute over how Japan acknowledges the program, and to confront an American immunity deal that has never faced a proper public reckoning. At this level, the danger has evolved past the physical soil or the concrete structures. This is a moral contamination. The site remains sealed because the reality of what occurred there and the immunity that followed cannot be easily reconciled with public history. The burning coal veins beneath Centralia, the collapsing concrete of Hashima Island, the classified archives of Unit 731. We rely on these heavy chains and warning signs. We built fences around these locations to create the comforting illusion that our most severe miscalculations have been successfully contained. These 5 locations prove that